Welcome back. You're watching Your World at 10. Now, after a highly charged campaign, Maharashtra will vote tomorrow along with 2 other states for its next government. The state has suffered a massive power shortage for years now, and the fiscal situation in Maharashtra is nothing to write home about either. So what are the issues that people are likely to vote on tomorrow, if that is, they do go to vote? And what should the next government's agenda be? What is the likely outcome? For answers to all of those questions, I'm joined by Rajdeep Sardesai, Editor-in-Chief of CNN IBN, and VK Jairath, former Industry Secretary and Additional Director at Tata Motors. Mr. Jairath, Rajdeep, thank you very much for joining us. I'm struggling to find issues to discuss in this discussion, Rajdeep, because it's been a very issue-less election campaign, if I was to say. Most of the conversation's been focused on this whole Marathi Manus plank, development, all of that seems to have taken a considerable backseat. Even some of the promises being made in the manifesto, free kidney transplants for the poor, things like that. I mean, no one's taken on development as a serious plank. What is going to decide this election?
The media campaign, particularly the South Mumbai media campaign, is about the Marathi Manus. I don't think that is necessarily the dominant issue.
Interior Maharashtra?
It is a major issue in Mumbai Thane because it's been made so by the political classes. The battle within the Shiv Sena is certainly an issue. But I think what's happened, Menka, is that elections in general, and particularly in Maharashtra this time, have become so localized. In every constituency, in every district, the battles are being fought around extremely localized issues. And I think that's why we are finding that there is no major issue that would link, say, a Vidarbha or a Gadchiroli with a South Mumbai.
That's totally fine, but if the local issue is focused on development, that would be great. Instead, the local issue is what? On setting up more Vada Pav centers or things like that?
I think that's where the opposition perhaps has got it wrong. They had an opportunity.
Right.
Here's a government who's been in power in 10 years. Attack them on their record. It's not the greatest record that the Congress NCP government has. Instead, you went down the road of emotional appeals, where the Marathi Manus card came. And because it's been played out so much in the media, it seems to have taken over or hijacked the campaign. And it's almost become, as far as the opposition is concerned, Uddhav Thackeray versus Raj Thackeray, when it could have just as easily been about power shortages, about the fact that food production is down, farmer suicides, the sugar industry in crisis. These could have been the real issues on which this election could have been fought.
Mr. Jairath, is it incredibly disheartening? You've, had an illustrious career in state government, and now you see an election being fought on none of the obvious developmental issues that the state needs to tackle on an urgent basis.
Menaka, I have seen a number of elections before this, and I think in most of the elections, there are never issues. And even if issues do come up, I don't think the people now are going to get influenced by, issues like Marathi Manus and all. At one time, the temple issue, did sway voters. But I think ultimately, what Delhi has proved, at the end of the day, people do think about Bijli, Pani and Sadak. And these issues do come up. The problem here is that you need a unified opposition to take up these issues. Somehow in this election, there is no opposition strategy to, highlight these issues, as Rajdeep said, and make them an issue to fight elections, at least that there is a good contest between the parties.
How poorly off are we in Maharashtra? You spoke of Bijli, Pani, Sadak. Let me tell you about Sadak. The first comment that the head of General Electric, who was in the country last week, made about what does he want from India in the next 5 years? He said, I want a nice road linking the Mumbai International Airport to downtown Mumbai. That's what the head of one of the largest, global corporations in the world has to say. We don't have a decent road in this city. You spoke about Bijli. We've hardly had any addition to power. I'm only talking about Mumbai. I'm not even talking about the rest of Maharashtra, which is far worse off. No addition to power supply in Mumbai in terms of new, fresh generating capacity. Very minimal in the last 10 years. You spoke Bijli and Pani. Oh gosh, let's not even go there, because if it hadn't rained in the last 3 weeks, we would have probably been facing a drought-like situation in Mumbai as well.
No, I think on the irrigation front, Maharashtra is that way not blessed as the northern part of the country. See, if you develop the full potential of irrigation in the state, you can't go beyond 32%. So 68% of agriculture will necessarily be rain-fed. The answer to that is not actually agriculture, although 55% of the population is still dependent on agriculture. You have to create jobs which will supplement agricultural income.
I'm asking you, how worse off are we in Maharashtra today than compared to 3 or 5 or 7 years ago? Without laying blame on any one political party, the fact is that our politicians have not been able to focus on development in the state.
No, I personally, I know you can view that as with a bias. I think that with a whole lot of investment coming in, jobs have been created. There is an issue about power. There is a serious issue about power. We are about 4,100 megawatts in deficit even today. there is an issue on that. But the government did try and initiate measures. I think the problem came up in a whole lot of issues where I think rather than, the government getting directly into power generation, they should have facilitated a lot of private sector and state generation and kind of cleared the hurdles and the problems which came up. Those have not been cleared. I think the problem was that on the deliverance part.
So you're saying we're not any worse off. Would you agree with that, Rajdeep?
I think what's happened, Menka, is from 1990 onwards. Maharashtra did have this legacy of development-oriented politics.
Right.
The politicians of Maharashtra, and you've seen it in Western Maharashtra, were progressive. They were into women's education. They set up schools, colleges. They built infrastructure. But after 1990, I think the politics of the state has suffered on the account of governance. I think the fact that from 90 to 95, Ayodhya and its aftermath seemed to sort of encircle the government. And then from 95, you had coalition governments, which we still have. And coalition governments mean that the chief minister seems to lose authority because every minister virtually becomes an emperor to himself. And I think the states which are progressing and which are leaving Maharashtra behind are the so-called single window clearance states, as I call them.
Like
the Gujarats, the Andhra Pradeshes, while Rajshekar Reddy was there, the Tamil Nads, when Karunanidhi and earlier Jayalalitha were there, because decision making is much faster. I think here what's happened is because of the nature of coalition governments that have come over the last 15 years, decision making has slowed down. And Dabhol is a classic example. One government comes, passes a project, the next government then says we are rejecting it, renegotiates it, and we are in the situation where we are now, where we are discussing power deficits in Maharashtra. We were obviously not prepared for the kind of growth that would take place and whether power supply would keep up with the industrial growth of Maharashtra.
You have to admit, Mr. Jairath, whichever way you slice the list, Maharashtra has lost its primary ranking as one of the best investment destinations in this country. Rajdeep spoke of Dabhol. It's 1,500 megawatts of capacity lying idle for the last 5 years. We haven't been able to fix the problem of one power plant.
No, I'm not being defensive about, that.
No, I'm asking you for, an inside view.
I said there is a problem. There is a problem and we haven't delivered. We've been very slow. See, I think...
We're not holding you accountable, so you're no longer in government, so there's no question of that.
No, that's not the question. The intention was there. Steps were initiated. I think what we lacked was the delivery. The speed and delivery with which you
10 years this coalition has been in power, so you clearly didn't lack time.
No, you didn't lack time, but the point was that you were slow.
Okay.
And
so the polite way of saying weren't able to deliver on the promises that you made.
Menka, you've seen it with the ceiling. I mean, there were cost overruns, there were time overruns, and I think it has to do partly with, the nature of the coalition governments that have come into Maharashtra. They've led to weakening of the chief minister's authority. I come back to it. I do believe that increasingly those states with powerful chief ministers, and I'm borrowing a point that was made by him before the discussion, was that around the chief minister, a core team of 5-6 bureaucrats and a tough chief minister get everything done. The states which are not blessed with that are struggling today. It's not just Maharashtra. Across the country, there is a difference between single window clearance states and these coalition states.
And in your assessment that this coalition is going to come back to power, considering that Raj Thackeray is eaten up into the BJP Shiv Sena traditional vote?
I think except for a period between 95 and 99, Maharashtra has always been ruled by Congress or Sharad Pawar for 2 years, who was effectively really part of the Congress when he formed his PDF government in 78. Otherwise, it's been a Congress-ruled state. And the opposition's problem is how do you come to power in a dominant party state? Because the Congress vote is traditionally anywhere above 45%. And if your vote gets split, as Raj Thackeray seems to be doing with the Shiv Sena's vote, then you're in serious trouble. Plus you have rebels, you have independent candidates, you have now a third front. So the anti-incumbency vote is getting split. And that's what's perhaps going to make the Congress NCP possibly come back to power despite itself.
Despite itself. Mr. Jairath, is that your assessment as well?
See, the point about coalition politics is very true. That was true even about the federal government. See, you had a government of 35 coalition partners. And you look at the government now. I think the best thing which can happen for this state is that there is a clear mandate. Even if it is for 2 coalition partners, there's a clear mandate to govern. And then the party high commands let the governments run over here.
Are you hopeful that will happen if the Congress NCP does come back to power?
I hope that should be an issue at least, because that is linked to governance. And when you have people's confidence restored in the government, that this government will deliver, then all the other issues get addressed, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's agriculture, or whether, with farmer suicides, all these issues get addressed.
There's also this view of the crass capital accumulation which has gone on in Maharashtra. Even the centre sees Maharashtra or the politicians of Maharashtra as people who will provide money for the funding of their various campaigns. Majority of the people, 41, at last count, IB and Lokmat did a count, 41 of the candidates in Mumbai alone are builders, or have links, direct links to the builder lobby. That's the lobby which is running the state. You've got the sugar barons who you see Mumbai as a cash cow exploiting the city, and you've got the real estate groups. There is a complete nexus between them. So even if they get a majority, my fear is this, that even if they get a clear majority, it will be seen as a mandate to continue with the rapacious capital accumulation which has gone on in the state. That's the fear.
Mr. Jairath, would you like to hazard a comment on that?
I would not like to comment on that.
No, do you know somebody's told me, Menka, it's staggering, and Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka are no different, but people are spending 20, 25, 30 crores this time to become an MLA. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, nobody spends as much money as in these three states to become a legislator. That's what's happening in this state. So the progressive tradition, the ideological, the ideology is completely gone. Every district today is run by a family. It's as if dynasties have been parceled across parties, across the Congress party.
Okay, Rajdeep, the unfortunate part of all of this is A, we're out of time, B, you leave and go back to Delhi tomorrow. Mr. Jairath and me have to vote in Mumbai, and I'm struggling who to vote for.
No, you must vote.
Yes, we will, but who do you vote for? Mr. Jairath, last point, I'll leave you with an issue you can or willingly comment on. That is, what do you suspect will have to be the top priority, whichever government comes back into power, even if it is the Congress NCP for a third term?
I think the first issue now is that there has been an erosion of people's confidence in the ability of the government to deliver. So that governance, I think, is a very important factor for any government. And I think whichever government comes in will have to really, restore that confidence. Number two, once that is done, there is a serious issue which has been, bothering people's minds, is about safety and security. Whether it's terrorism or it's the natural problem.
Yeah, the NST asked for 200 acres, we give them 20 or something like that. So we apparently were out of land in Mumbai's suburban areas. So.
Anyway, so the point is that, yes, once you have a stable government and a government that delivers, then you have infrastructure that gets settled, then see, there are so many power plants which are in the pipeline in the private sector.
Now there are, that's true.
There is. Now, there are hurdles coming up. There are hurdles of land acquisition or water being available. If the government can just remove those hurdles which have been created or which may crop up, I think there is enough interest in the private sector to deliver beyond the builder lobby, Rajdeep.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope South Mumbaikars go and vote, and I hope the politicians whom they elect also respond to people's urges. I really do.
Okay, all right, gentlemen. We'll leave it there. We're entirely out of time. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Jairath and Rajdeep, and thank you very much.